Hello, survivors, and welcome to the second episode of our new and exciting series, Ark Highlights. This episode is entitled Server Ownership, so without delay, let's get started. So welcome everyone to the second episode of Ark Highlights, and in this episode I'm joined by two of the server owners of our tribe. So I thought we would introduce you to everyone. So we'll start with your name, how many servers you have, and which maps they're on, and how long you've run the server for. So I'll throw it to Danny first.
Hello.
To introduce you.
Hello. At the moment, I run two servers on Ark, Ragnarok and Crystal Isles, and I've been basically running servers for about 3 years. But I've been playing it since it was on early release beta anyway, so I've been playing for as long as it's been on Xbox, really.
Yep. And his name is Danny, if you didn't catch that already. And I'm Jacob, you already know who I am. I have one server, currently Genesis Part 1, will be Part 2. And I've run a server for 2 years? 2 years? On and off? Yeah, that sounds about right? Yeah. 2 years. 2 years. So, yeah. So I think we should explain what owning a server for Ark means first. So, basically it means you can play Ark via a service that is run by a host. This means it can be run for a small number or a large number of players separate from the huge number of official players on the official server network. A private server is hosted by Nitrado, and you can have a server for all maps of Ark, including Ark, which is mine and Danny's dream server.
Well, I wouldn't say dream, but interested.
we want a server for Ark. Let's just put it that way. One day. Is there any cost to running a server? Yes. This is going to be the only time we talk about money in this. You pay Nitrado to host the server, but once the server is paid, there's no further cost. You pay a monthly cost, of course, and then you can choose to run the server for longer rather than just pay it monthly if you're privileged. Are there any limits to the servers? I believe you could have as many players as you want to have on the server. I think you can up the limit every now and then. The same with tamed dinos and structures. But remember what we've said on this channel about lag. The more tamed dinos and structures you have, the more lag you create. And we as a tribe have had our experience of lag with tamed dinos and structures. Haven't we, Danny?
Mm-hmm. Over the years, yes.
Over the years. Let's not forget the zoo.
The zoo was alright.
That was a... Oh, yeah, I think the zoo was a great idea.
Just no one used it, but hey-ho.
No one really used it for what we did. To explain what our idea was, we put every tameable, breedable creature that you could have on the Ark into one building so that you wouldn't have to go out and tame them. And basically it created a lot of lag, but it looked amazing. Let's be honest. But eventually we had to... No one was really using it for the purpose that we wanted it for at the end of the day. So it had to be torn down, which is a big shame because a lot of effort went into those dinos. So let's talk about something a little bit more recent that's affected some of the official network. So meshing. I'm sure you might have heard of this, Danny. It's where people go under the ground and build things. We might know it as the term ghosting, which is where you use that nice little admin cheat ghost and you go under the ground. Nice admin cheat, that one. So, I don't know whether you know a lot about it, but, what's your thoughts on those that kind of area?
Well, you don't. If you have building into the scenery selected on one of the options, you don't really need to ghost because you can build into the rock, and it makes your building more sort of easier to work with to create a wall as such, and a floor. But I personally, I've only ghosted once, and that was when we were on the big bridge in Rag. But
yes,
it didn't work because I couldn't see what I was doing, so I just demolished it all. And that's the only time I've ever ghosted or meshed or whatever you want to call it. But I personally don't think it's worth it. Because there is, I don't think it'll ever happen on a privately owned server, but on official servers, the wildcards do not like it, so they tend to ban people if they find you're doing it. I'm not saying it won't happen on private, but it could happen because at the end of the day, they own the game anyway. It's their game, so they can do what they want. But no, I personally don't think meshing. If you've got building into the scenery, you don't. Yes, I personally feel you don't need to mesh. Because every building I've built, I've never had to mesh or ghost.
Yes, and that's part of the settings that you set up. So there are several settings in which you can set for your server. So I believe it's building structure collision, which is where you can set your server so that it doesn't collide with the scenery, and so your structures will be able to place inside, as Donny says. You can build it inside the scenery. So that is something that, if you want to build in more areas, that is something you can do. Genesis Part 1, however, is a bit more complicated, because yes, you can set that, but obviously with the missions, that's a bit more complicated, because you have to also set it to build in mission areas. And that probably leads us quite nicely into keeping people playing on our servers. I think over the years, we have had a few struggles with this, haven't we?
Yeah, it's keeping the people on the server engaged. It's trying to, because once people have built their building, or however many buildings they want to do, and they've tamed what they want to tame, and they've done various other things in the map, like cave running, or the labyrinth technically on Rag, and underwater things.
And the boss fight.
And the boss fights. That's pretty. There's not a lot of, shall I say, there's not a lot of inclination to. There's not a lot of incentive to go back, because all you're doing is housekeeping and basically feeding your animals and looking after the house, and maybe touching up your house a bit or your base a bit. Because once you get to a certain level, it's pretty much, there's nothing else to do. And once you've done everything on the map, you've just got to find something for the tribe or the people that are playing to do, and that's very difficult because not everybody wants to join in.
No, and I think, one of our, I think for me, one of the greatest struggles with that was Genesis Part 1. We've had so many servers over the years, and so many successful servers. We've had, well, we've had such a long list: Ragnarok, Volgero, Center, sort of, and
Well, over the period of time, I've probably owned all the servers, but I've after I found that some servers weren't working for what we wanted, we just got rid of. But we've always kept Rag. We've kept Rag as basically our main server.
Yeah.
When Crystal Isles came out, we got that again. But yeah, it can become expensive. But I don't know. You've got to weigh up the pros and cons of keeping the server and how many people were on it from your tribe and blah blah blah.
Yeah, Genesis Part 1 was it was, I think it must have been 2 weeks in, and no one was on it.
Well, the reason I gave up with it is because I like to grind, and I found it too difficult to at least make an impression.
It was very hostile.
Yeah.
It was very hostile.
You could, even if you started in the easiest section, which was forest, if I remember rightly, or the swamp.
Yeah, the bog, yeah.
You were constantly getting attacked. You couldn't do anything. You couldn't. You had to race to get a base made up or a foundation, and then the fact that you couldn't go through the zones with the beasts because of the walls. And,
yeah, there were a lot of.
And it looked a good map. Textures and graphics and everything was up to Ark standard. But I didn't.
It wasn't a map for our tribe. I don't think.
No, it wasn't a map for our tribe. No, it's not. That is not the way we play it.
No. And I knew that eventually, so to speak, and that's why, when the server issue happened, I didn't try to save it. Because I knew it just wasn't the map for us. And the only reason why I kept it for so long was because, for me, myself, I was covering the news. At the time, it was it was for the channel, so I needed it. So at the time, there was it was the thing I needed to keep. So it was there was a sort of a two-way thing there, and the reason why it's back now, for everyone to know, is that we want to do the boss fight for it before we get Genesis Part 2. So that's why it's back now. So, and that was a pro and cons decision on my part to get it back before Part 2, so we could understand where Part 2 is going. I think let's talk about admin cheats next. Another one that we're going to talk, another big one. Because obviously there are different people on our server who do different things, as you know. There are some of us who use them a lot, and other ones who may not use them a lot. And I think that might be nice to just weigh that up, I think, and just discuss those. And because they're part of the game. Let's be clear on that. And I actually used the wrong word.
They are.
They're admin commands. I used the wrong word. I will tell myself off later. They're not admin cheats, they're commands.
Well, my view is that if you're on your own, they're helpful. Right?
Mm.
But I personally think that I don't use them a lot. I only use them to keep my suit going to go into creative. That's the only reason I use them. I don't.
Mm.
I prefer to build it all physically. I think personally, if you have a tribe, then well, maybe one or two people should only use it. But it's keeping the password away from everybody else. That's the difficult thing. If you want to go down that route, very difficult to keep the password away from the tribe, because invariably your tribe are generally your friends on Xbox or PC or whatever. So it's very difficult to keep the password away. But
or in our case, friends in real life.
yeah, but I personally don't use them that often. Because as I say, I prefer to grind. But there are people that like to use it and abuse it, if you see what I mean. But hey ho, you're always going to get people want to do things differently.
Or, I think my case is I use them. I use them for
convenience.
Yeah, I use them for food, just spawning the food for the animals. Gosh, this sounds wrong. I use them for element, to keep the suit running and to keep the generators running. There's no way to get it, anyway, on our islands.
No. Admittedly, unless you've done the boss fight every 2 days, which no one's going to do.
And I use it to keep all of our mechs running. And the tech jets.
Yeah, but in my view, I personally don't think they should have ever introduced tech.
Yeah. And to be honest, I scarcely use anything else. Use the cheats for anything else now, because it's all, I don't touch I try not to touch force tame anymore, as you know, because it was getting to the point where it was just getting ridiculous.
So, well, look at that person we had in our tribe who just force tamed everything.
Yes. We'll get to that later. Actually, let's move to that. Let's move with problems with other players, because obviously, as you say, we have had a bit of a history there with with another player who attempted to spawn in everything, and I think, can't remember rightly, but I'm sure there was some other history as well.
Yeah. It was when we pretty much first started.
Yeah.
Well, not first started, we would go for some time. But there was some rivalry between people in the tribe, and they just, what basically done it was we always agreed that we would do bosses as a tribe, or things as a tribe.
Yeah.
And this was in the early stages when we were all trying to level up and get everything going and whatever.
Yeah.
and they just wanted to do it before the rest of us, basically. And being as I was server owner, I just basically kicked them, basically.
Yeah. So, I guess rather than focusing on the problem, let's try and focus on the resolution to, resolve. Is sometimes the resolution, to ban from the servers, or is there the
Well,
okay,
you always try to figure it out like you would any confrontations in real life. You would always try to sort it out first. If you can't sort it out, then being as you're a server owner and you don't want to upset the rest of the tribe, you've basically got to go with the majority, and the majority of the tribe to get rid of them. Because
the same with our
because they didn't like what was
that was the
going
same
on.
with our that was the same with our previous as well.
They didn't like what was going on because as a tribe we agreed it. Because I've always said, if anything happens, or if we decide to get rid of a server, we take the tribe vote technically, and if depends which way that voting goes, then as a tribe owner, you've got to sort of respect the result, regardless of what you want to do, because it doesn't matter what you want to do, because you're the tribe owner. You have to go with what the tribe says.
Yeah. And let me just say, a tribe vote does not happen very often.
Well, it can do. It depends on who's on and around, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If there's no one on, but to be fair, because we're in contact with all the tribe in other games and what have you anyway. If I said I was wanting to get rid of Crystal Isles, I would say first, shall we get rid of Crystal Isles? And if everybody says, yeah, well, I'm not happy with it, or so, and there's more that say nay than yay, then, it doesn't affect them because they're not physically paying for it. But, if you want to get rid of it, if the yays say get rid of it, then you know your answer then, don't you?
It was the same with Volgaro. I wanted to keep Volgaro.
Yeah.
If I remember rightly. I was one of the ones who put my vote in to keep, and it was turned to Crystal Isles. So,
Well, yeah, I couldn't afford free servers.
No, you couldn't. Although I said we wouldn't talk about monies.
But at the end of the day, it boils down to monies. Because at the end of the day, you can't have a private server without subscribing.
Oh no.
So it's going to boil down to money, and at the end of the day, if no one's using it, it's like if you bought a car and you didn't use it, you'd get rid of it. So.
Oh yeah.
So, it just.
So let's talk about the creative mode to grinding, and also the transfers. Because obviously we have had a few servers over the years, and obviously many of us have taken the opportunity to have new characters and grind. Some of us haven't done that. And so let's talk about that then,
Well, my view is there. Every time there's a new map, I grind. As simple as that. And some I have transferred, but I tend to grind first. But I find it more difficult to figure out where my character is if I have three or four servers. Or I have used 3 or 4 servers, I have trouble remembering where my character is if I transfer. So that's why I have a character on each one, because I ain't got to remember where they're transferred.
And how many of us have had that problem
Exactly.
over the years of, oh, where's my character again?
Because I
And
cannot be
they
sort of
used,
bothered about trying to log on again, because it's long enough log-on process as it is.
well, not for you.
Well, no, not for me, but, you know,
At the
it takes
moment.
a long time to get into the game compared to most games.
Just worthy of note, Danny has an Xbox One X.
Series X.
Why?
Series X.
Series X, sorry. Series X, which is why I jokingly said it doesn't take very long for him to log in, because of course, faster login times and all that.
Only if you have it on the SDD hard drive.
Only if you have it on the SDD drive, just to make that abundantly clear. Of course, I have not seen this for myself yet, so I cannot confirm nor deny that report.
At the end of the day, that's what, for some reason, that's what everybody wants. Me personally, it doesn't really matter, but hey-ho.
Anyway, we can't say much on it because we haven't seen it. Anyway, so, for me, I've always transferred to our maps. I started doing it with Center, my own map. Gosh, that was a long time ago. And yeah, and I've transferred ever since. And yes, I have had the issue where I forget where I am. So it has happened. So, but eventually you work out which one you are at. So it's fine.
Yeah, but when you got 4 or 5 servers running, it's a lot easier to say, well, just load up a map. Because at one point we had 5.
Did we?
Karen, me, you, Terry.
Yeah, but see, I don't. Because we don't transfer to Karen's. I forget.
Exactly. I must admit, I haven't been on Liberation for some time, but all scorched.
And if she was here, she'd be telling us off.
Yes, she would.
And she does send her.
Yes, she would.
She does send her apologies. Karen is another one of our server. To mention who we're talking about, Karen is another one of our server owners. She's wonderful, and she runs 2 servers. She runs Aberration and Scorched Earth. They're clustered, but they're separate clusters to our RAG servers, which means we can transfer between those 2, but we can't transfer from RAG or my server or Danny's servers to hers. So it's.
But I don't transfer anyway. So.
No, Danny doesn't transfer anyway, so he likes it. Whereas for me, it took me a lot to get used to it. Because I went from, being in creative mode to not being in creative mode. So, it's, and if anyone who watches this channel hasn't noticed yet, that I have the spanner and hammer in the bottom right corner when I play this game and you watch, I'm surprised. So, there you are. But you heard it here first, I play in creative mode. And that's how I play. So, spoiler alert. I think that's bigger than a face reveal, that is. Anyway. So I think we should probably talk a little bit about Center, because Center had something a little bit special that I don't think any of our other maps have ever had before.
The only downside with Center, it had too much water.
It did have too much water, but Center had a little bit something else, didn't it?
Yes, it had the underground map. Underground area, sorry.
Yes. Can you remember? Can you remember what else I did to center? I did something to center, didn't I?
When you put loads of
That's it. That's it. That's it.
stegos and the other one,
Yes, the
the
Quetzals.
Quetzals, where
So,
you filled the underground area with Quetzals. Completely filled the underground area with Quetzals.
oh my goodness. So, what something you can do, and let me stress, this is probably the most. When Danny and Rachel told me that they've, what did you tell me? You warned me that it was the most complicated thing and you've never done it,
What was that?
and that what I did with the Quetzals and the Stegos, and that it would be it's very delicate work.
Oh yeah,
I
you had to sort of mess around with the numbers and stuff.
Yeah, and I think I was sitting there, and every evening I was on my tablet messing around with these numbers, and it took about 6 months of strain and stress before everything was okay, and it took about a year for the Stego number, and the Stegos were about as the same number as the Dodos.
Yeah, but
by the end of it.
that is just what you've done on the map. The map itself is a very good map. It's just there's far too much water, and when you start, you tend to start it on the right hand side of the map, because that's where they tell you where to start. But you can't get off that island until you make a boat, and making it's not easy. Well, it's easy to make a raft and what have you. It's just it takes some time to get there, you know. And
I don't.
And you can't unless you've got. The other downside is it didn't have the only flyers you could get were Quetzals and I don't think you could get Quetzals in there. I don't think
well, by the time I was done, no.
No, but I don't think the Quetzals were a thing on that map, were they?
No, yes, you could get Quetzals. Yes, you could get Pteranodons. Yes, you could get Argies. It had no scar because Center was just after Apparition.
Yeah, it had no scar. So generally, to get anywhere, if you're used to flying a wyvern, you have the option of having no wyvern, you suddenly miss having a wyvern. Because the Argies, the Pteranodons, and every other flyer that you can fly isn't as versatile.
Of course, our luck was we clustered it with rag.
Yes, yeah, you can cluster it, but if you want to grind and without clustering and do start from scratch.
If you're not clustering,
very difficult. It was a very difficult map because of the water, and you were stuck on that one island. But then again, wherever you went,
there was always water around you.
There was always water around you. It was very difficult.
Yeah, it wasn't the easiest of maps.
It wasn't the easiest of maps, but once you had a flyer, it was a doddle. But I don't know. It's not
I wasn't exactly helping.
It's not a good starting map. Let's put it that way.
No.
Best map to start on if you're actually starting Ark. God knows why, because you missed it for 5 years. But anyway, a good map to start on is probably Island or Rag.
I would recommend Rag.
Yeah,
If you're gonna get a private server, if you've got a choice of all the maps,
but let's face it,
I would
you, you people who get a private server are the ones that, like we. The reason we got a private server is because we were getting very annoyed with the amount of lag on the official server. I haven't been on an official server since, so I don't know if the lag is still there. I presume it is. I don't know. Probably not. I don't know. But that is the only reason. Now, you're only going to get a private server if you played official server.
Mm,
Um, I very much doubt someone's going to buy the game and go straight to a private server. They try it on official.
also, I would also recommend Volgero just because I followed them through Twitter and I followed their journey from the whole startup phase when they went through the sponsored mod program, as I mentioned in episode 13. So as much as I would also recommend Rag, I would also recommend Volgero. It does also have a Scar, and it also has the Underworld Aberration, which I was really annoyed about when we lost, because I wanted to tame Carkenus, and
Yeah, we can do
I
that on
discovered...
aberration.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
still have an aberration.
we do, but how hard was it to actually get the Carkenus? Um, so yeah, the we were dying all the time. So yeah, the most annoying thing was that there were Carkenus there, and waiting, and I could have had one so sooner,
But
so much
anyway,
sooner. Anywho, so I would also recommend Volgero just because I followed it
but
myself.
unless you know about Ark, you're not going to get a private.
I
You're not going to get a private server.
that's yeah,
You've
yeah,
got
unless
you've
you
got
know
to
about it.
play official server first, and then if you like
Yeah,
it, you'll stick with it, and you'll probably go and get your own server, like we did.
or unless you know people who are playing private servers,
Unless you know
which is
people
how...
who are playing private servers, but if you know people who are playing private servers, you know about the game really, and you know what goes with it.
which is how which is how I discovered Ark, actually.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's probably a story for the next Ark highlights.
Yeah, but
Um,
unfortunately, you've got to buy Ark to get onto the server.
oh yeah, let's not forget you have to buy Ark first. No, Ark is available on Game Pass as well.
Yeah, but
You don't even
if
need
you
to
yeah, but
buy Ark.
you still have to pay 7, 10.99 for Game Pass if you have Game Pass
Well,
Ultimate.
Game Pass. Oh yeah, hang on. Yeah, okay. So you okay? Whether you have Game Pass or not, you would have to buy Ark, and if you have Game Pass, then you don't need to buy. There are lots of things. There are options. That's what we've learned here. So if you want a server, you have many options. You have all the maps. That's what you've learned. And if you want to buy Ark, you also have many options. Also what you've learned. I think that summarizes everything pretty well.
It's good to have a server because you can do what you want. Basically, you're not restricted by the official servers. But
Yes.
having a server comes with its own problems, as in you invite people and then they bring their own problems. Bless them. Um, but yeah, if you want to get a server, I do recommend it. You've seriously got to like the game to get a server. To be fair.
Yeah. I think I think that's a
You've got to play the
that's a
game first. There's no point getting a server before playing the game.
yeah. I think many Ark people would agree that I think you need to play the game to understand the game and then get your server. So, that's everything for this episode of Ark Highlights. Be sure to check out our next episode, episode 3, where we discuss the basics of Ark. Make sure you subscribe for more Ark related content and of course Ark news. Make sure to hit that notification bell, ding, to keep you up to date with the latest news. If you have any questions or comments about anything in today's episode or Ark in general, make sure you leave a comment below. Be sure to check out Ark News episode 18, Genesis Part 2, Grand Tour and more. And that's all, so see you next time, survivors.